Welcome to Conversations with Buddy, coming to you live from the Rec Podcast recording studio here in Kaiser, Oregon. I'm excited to introduce you today's guest, Dean Breitbach. Welcome, Dean.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, thanks for being on here, man. Well, we have lots to talk about today. I've known you for a decade or so, would you say?
Ish,
give or take?
Yeah.
And we've gotten to know each other over time because we've had lots of coffee appointments, and we enjoy that.
Yeah.
So, well, here, I'm just going to do a quick intro to Dean. There's going to be more we'll talk about, but Dean is married to Bernice. They've got lots of kids. How many kids you got?
5.
5. How many grandkids?
6.
I like it.
Yeah.
Those are good numbers. And the grandkids are more fun than the kids. Is that true?
Yes.
It's just a rumor. I've heard that's true. I don't know that to be the case.
True statement.
So Dean is an entrepreneur. I know that for a fact. He's an investor. Could be in cars, could be in houses, could be in whatever. I don't know. We'll talk about cryptocurrency maybe. Who knows? He's an elite water skier. Probably a barefooter.
A rough barefooter.
A rough barefooter, okay. And you also have a ministry in his wakes. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm part of a ministry in his wakes, yes.
You're part of a ministry, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive in real quick. What I learned about you this morning, because I stalked you a little bit on Facebook, even though we're Facebook friends, and we're obviously personal friends, I did not know you went to Silverton High School.
Yeah, born and raised there.
So when did you graduate from high school?
1985.
Interesting. You're older than me. I don't know that I knew that either.
Hey. We need to cut that out of this part.
I know.
No, just kidding.
So I graduated 86, so you are... So I'll probably guess you're around 55.
Yeah, you probably flunked one of the grades, so that's...
Maybe. So what? This is not about me, Dean. This is about you. All right. To a serious note, so you grew up in Silverton. So tell me about maybe growing up in Silverton, small town, obviously.
Yeah.
What that looked like for you?
Yeah, actually, I thought we had a great childhood, a great growing up. We had a couple acres in just right at the outskirts of Silverton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it was a small town. I ride my bike through town, meet friends. We'd, just ride our bikes all over the place. Didn't really do anything too mischievous. Had a dad, did carpentry, and had what I thought was a pretty average middle-class lifestyle. So really enjoyed it. Yeah, I actually trying to get back to that feel now. So
Tell me why. Okay, that's an interesting.
Well, I bought my parents' house that I grew up in back in 2000. Lived there for about 10 years, and then we thought, we want to be closer to Salem, closer to our church and my kids' friends and all that. So we moved to South Salem, had a really nice house out in South Salem, but I could throw a rock and hit every one of my neighbors' houses. Not that I did. And I grew up with a couple acres, so that's kind of what I was longing to be back at, is a couple acres, have the grandkids now running and enjoying, exploring on my property and not just wandering the streets when they come visit us or whatever. So, yeah, so now we sold our house back in 2018 because I thought that was the peak of the market.
Didn't we all?
4 or 5 years later, and
Wow.
It's still climbing, and so I left a few dollars on the table on that one. So, yeah, that hurt. Although I was happy when I sold it back then, so I was told to be happy then. Don't look at what you didn't get.
That's hard because, hindsight's 20/20, and you see it now, like, totally miss that. I think a lot of people did, though.
Yeah.
You're not alone. And it is what it is, though. You did what you did. You've moved forward. So, okay. So you and Bernice live a little different lifestyle, and I actually think it's pretty cool. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I simply just call it living weird now, because we sold our house 2018, like I said, and thinking in the next year or two, the market's going to correct itself and the house prices will come down because they were rising pretty quickly. And so we sold the house, bought ourselves an RV, and we live out on a couple acres, which is what I want, but on someone else's property. They have an RV pad, so it's pretty cool. But we thought we'll just do this for a couple of years and then buy a house. Well, it's 4 or 5 years later. The market is just continuing to go crazy. And so since it's just ourselves, no children, it's actually quite freeing. We don't have a big mortgage. We pay for where we're staying. But it's time's up. I'm heavily looking or eagerly looking for a piece of property that we can build. Because I want my own dirt again. There's something about having your own dirt, and so but this has allowed us to live and invest in kingdom-minded things versus ourselves trying to maintain a mortgage and insurance and car payments. We don't have any car payments or anything right now, so it's really quite freeing. We're really debt-free at the moment, and so it feels good.
I think that's a great lesson because I would say probably a large percentage of Americans are maxed out on their mortgage, maxed out on car payments, maxed out on debt. And they probably have a different stress life than you do where, you want the dirt, you want to build your own home, and you'll eventually get there, I believe. Mm-hmm. But right now you're living a debt-free life. So it's got to feel good. And we'll talk more about this because I want to see how that led you into some of your ministry. But take me back to high school real quick. What'd you do for sports in high school?
I did all the sports, but it's funny. I did pretty much one and then move on, do one, move on. I didn't ever repeat a sport throughout my 4 years in high school. I played baseball, basketball, football, track, but I ended up, I don't know, I'm a team sport player. I enjoy it, but I'm more of a individual sport person. That's why water skiing has really been something I've really grown to love. But so, and I was decent at all of them. It wasn't great, wasn't terrible, but I was decent.
Yeah. So tell me about water skiing. So as a fellow water skier, I grew up on the lake too. I think you're definitely way better and way more avid. What caused you to be this avid, elite water skier?
Well, I grew up watching ESPN. They had the Pro Tour on TV. It was a big deal. Thousands of people would show up at the events, and sponsored by Chevy and Budweiser and all this stuff. And I grew up watching that, and I just was like, and I grew up with family, friends that had boats. We never had a boat, and I'd go out and learn how to water ski, and then I was hooked. Once I learned that first time how to slalom ski, that was it. I went out and bought my own ski.
What age were you?
I was about 12 or 13 when I learned to slalom ski out at Lake Billy Chinook in Central Oregon.
It's funny. So what was your first water ski? I'm a water ski guy too. So what was your first water ski?
My first purchase was a Kidder Pro Graphite, the one that Carl Roberge, he was a professional water skier. He skied on that ski. I thought, well, if he skis on it, I need to get that ski. Of course, my ability wasn't quite where I needed to be to use that ski, but that was my first ski. I'm actually trying to find that ski because I know the guy that bought it from me because I'd like to hang it on the wall.
So cool. Yeah, I think for some reason, I bought a Joby water ski. I started when I was about 12 also. And I skied solid for 10 or 12 years. As I got married, then water skiing became less important for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But you continued to water ski that whole time?
No, I family came into play, and then, it got put in the back burner all the way until about 2000 as I just started, because my kids were getting the age where I didn't want them going out and hanging out with everybody else's family. I mean, that's fine, they could, but I prefer that they brought their kids, their friends, and hung out with us. And so in 2003, we bought our first boat together, my wife and I. So and the kids all brought their friends, and so it was awesome. It was exactly what I wanted to do. And at that point, I stumbled across a water ski tournament up in southern Washington, and I watched them. It's like, that's it. I got to get back into this. And so then I started competing from there. And
Okay, what age were you when you started competing back into it? Was that late?
How old was I in 2003?
So it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Well,
so I was 12.
Yeah. Yeah. You weren't 12.
Yeah,
you were 35
exactly.
getting back into a game.
Yeah.
That probably most professional water skiers, I'm guessing they're probably in their 20s,
Yeah,
late 20s, maybe early 30s.
30s. Yeah, so there's but yeah, and so obviously I just competed in the amateur leagues around the area, and ironically, after a few years of doing it, I ended up number 1 in the state of Oregon and number 2 nationwide.
Really?
Now I say that in my age group, or not in my age group, but in my ability level. So that sounds impressive.
It is impressive.
And I could end it there and say that's it, But the backstory is I was probably from amateur to professional. I was about in the middle of that gap because you competed with your ability group. So I was competing against guys that would fit inside this window of talent. If you get too good, you move up to the next level. And so saying I was number 1 in the state, I was number 1 in the state in my category. So it sounds cool, and it is cool. It was very cool. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I wasn't there for the hype. I mean, not the hype, but the fame and the trophies and all that, because it was more just, it was a great family activity. All my kids competed, wakeboarding, wake skating.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, and they were all pretty good at it. And so it was more an ability-based event. And so, yeah, anyway.
So you didn't do it just for you. You did because you loved it, but you got your kids involved. Yeah. And they excelled at it too, and you could do it as a family. That was your family event.
Yeah, so we competed in the INT League, which was a nationwide organization, and it was family-oriented. We have potluck Saturday night, and it was just a great time, and I definitely miss those days because that league has since dissolved, and people have moved on, and so...
How many years did you do that type of skiing?
Up until about 2008. I believe.
You did that entire time?
Yeah.
For 15 years, roughly?
Yeah, probably 12 to 15 years. Maybe not all the way to 18. No one's asked me that question, so I hadn't thought about it, but that's about the time we sold our house, and I remember that was maybe a year or two before that, I guess, is when that league slowly started dissolving. So yeah, maybe 2016-ish.
So let's transition from the time of 18. You sold your home, you moved. Then there's this thing called ministry come along and an opportunity. So you and I were meeting a lot, just trying to figure out what God was going to do in your life, what he wanted you to be about. So walk us through how you and Bernice kind of transitioned from that South Salem house to life in a RV and on the road.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Well, actually, back in the water ski tournament days, I met a guy that he was sitting next to his RV reading the Bible, and I was like, well, that's interesting. You don't see that every day, especially at a water ski tournament. Come to find out, Sunday mornings they had a quick little lake church, 15, 20 minutes, and he was the one that led that church on Sunday mornings. Our tournaments were Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, so we would miss church, and so he filled in that gap of those that would like to be present for church. So we got to be good friends, and come to find out, he was just starting out to work with Christy Overton Johnson. Christy Overton was the number 1 women's skier in the world for decades, and she's like the Michael Jordan of water skiing. She started a ministry called In His Wakes because she wanted to keep sharing her passion for water sports and her passion for the Lord, and that's where this ministry was developed. Well, over time, I'd help out and volunteer at local events when In His Wakes came through town because it's a nationwide organization. And my wife kept saying, I want to go on the road with In His Wakes. I want to go on the road with In His Wakes. I'm like, I don't feel led to do that. So then fast forward, 2017, 18, we decided we're going to sell our house. And so we sell the house, buy the RV, going to do that for about 2 years. And by the way, when I say an RV, I mean, we're not slumming it at all. We got a 38-foot fifth wheel with 4 slides. I mean, we're not wanting, it's got a fireplace.
I feel bad for you, man.
Yeah,
That's pretty rough.
I don't say that to brag, but people go, you live in an RV? And I get that instant raised eyebrow going, whoa, you guys okay? So anyway, and so we sell our house, get the RV, And then Nate, the director of In His Wakes, he says, "Hey, would you like to come on the road with us for a couple months this coming summer?" And we went home, prayed about it, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." I wasn't ready all those years prior, and the anchor of a house and everything else, because you can't just pack up and leave for 3 months and expect everything to be, your job, your house, and everything else to be the way you left it. So it was the perfect opportunity. We went on the road all the way to North Carolina and zigzagged our way back across the country with this organization called In His Wakes. The only purpose of this ministry is to share the gospel, and we do it through water sports.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you guys are enjoying that. And I know every year it seems like, well, what started out for maybe a couple months has got extended. So fast forward to, 2022, the summer, because has that been your longest tour, I should say?
Yeah, this summer was our longest. My wife, she works for the school system, and so she can't get off till June. So, but I'm on the pretty heavily involved with the inner works of In His Wakes also. I do a lot of the decals on the boats and RVs and whatnot. And so I took an RV to Florida in the middle of May, along with the boat that we use. Centurion Boats Centurion Boats and Nautique boats both sponsor us, and they give us one Centurion and 2 Nautiques every year. We have 3 teams. They give us free of charge. Then, of course, we have to give them back at the end of the season. But
bummer.
But it's awesome. So yeah, I drove to Florida, spent about 2 weeks there, flew home. Then my wife and I both flew to Nashville, and then we started the season from there and zigzagged our way back across all the way to Oregon.
When was your last boating or outing with these young kids?
I think it was the September 1st, yeah.
Well, talk to me about the age of this. You're sharing the gospel. Who are you sharing it to? What are their ages?
Actually, all ages. I mean, this ministry primarily started out as sharing with inner city kids and foster kids. It has blossomed into a lot of adult recovery homes, like Mercy Multiplied, which is a woman's home, and then Teen Challenge, Adult and Teen Challenge. We do quite a few events with those, and so we got kids from 5 years old to 75. I forget. I think 78 might have been the oldest participant we've had. But yeah, so we reach a wide age range, and we've been pulled kind of towards the adult recovery homes quite a bit the last couple of years, and that's really been an awesome partnership we've had with Teen Challenge and with Mercy Multiplied. So
give me a story of maybe how you've impacted somebody. I don't know, they're 30, 40, 50. I know we have impact on kids, but let's say somebody who's coming out of a drug-addicted life. How does water skiing in this ministry affect them? What's that look like?
Yeah, in fact, this summer when we were in Nashville, which is one of our favorite places to go, Scott Hendricks, he's a music producer in Nashville. Blake Shelton's one of his one of his acts, so he's a big deal. Anyway, we go to his place, and there's a young gal that came out this year. I mean, young. She was probably about 30. She came out this year to volunteer. Well, she was about 10 years ago, maybe a little less than that, I guess, about 5 years ago, in Mercy Multiplied, a home for either battered, addicted, or any type of situation a woman might be in. She was going through some hard stuff. Well, she came back and helped and shared with us that this event 10 or 5 years ago was the turning point for her, because she realized she was more than just someone that was just going to go out and get a job, do this, do that. It encouraged her, because someone actually said to her, "You are rather athletic. We're impressed how quickly you picked up on all the water skiing and the wakeboarding and everything." And she went back to school, was a athlete there, a track star for that college, and it's just her life is just turned around. She now pours into other people's lives, younger kids, and she says because of our event, that was a turning point for her. Just because someone spoke into her life, and that changed her whole trajectory.
It's amazing when we show love toward people, just simply love and encouragement. Like, hey, you're a great athlete. You learned how to water ski easily. Those are words that maybe she never heard before in a previous life. So that's interesting.
Oh, now I'll say one thing that a lot of the adults have come out and said, I didn't realize you can share the gospel and not be behind a pulpit wearing a suit. Because we're, technically, I guess you want to call this preachers, but I don't like to use that word.
Dean's a preacher.
No,
I love it, man.
No, that's what my family always goes, hey, have Preacher Dean
I'm Preacher
pray.
Dean.
It's like, come on, guys. And so we're sharing the gospel in a boat, a donated boat. We're sharing the gospel on the shores of a lake, or on the steps of our motorhome that we're driving around. And that a couple people have said, I want to start a rock climbing ministry. I want to start a snow ski ministry. I want to do this because I didn't realize you could do this.
Apparently you can.
And not be, I'm not an ordained pastor, and I didn't go to seminary. And one of our team members did, but Kevin and Emily Durham, they're out of Florida. But anyway, they're quite the amazing team themselves. But yeah, so that was a cool part of it that people, their eyes are opened when we show up and they see that we're having fun, we're out there on the lake enjoying it. And I love water sports, and selfishly I could do that 365 days a year. But quite frankly, when we're on the road in the summer times, I'm not in the water. I'm in the driver's seat of the boat, making sure everybody else is enjoying the day and getting loved on and fed and poured into. And so that just fills me up. Of course, we do go play. When we get an opportunity, we'll stop and play. But it's a lot of work. But it's joyful.
Hopefully, you're getting at least one run in a day.
No, no. Ideally, that'd be great. But sometimes we do an event, we close, and at the end of each event, every participant there, we sit down and do a closing, and we do a slideshow for them. They see throughout the day what they did and their victories, and they hear the gospel. And the invitation's given to them, and so but once that's over, and they all hop in their buses and they go home. A lot of times we gotta slam it together, pack this up, put it away, dry things off, and we're traveling 5, 6, 7 hours to get to the next event, or more. So sometimes it's event travel. Okay, now we get to play. We got a day break, so then we'll stop and stay and play ourselves on the water.
Got it. How has this grown your faith being put in a position that you're put in now? Because I think we grow as we now have to go teach and preach the word. And by the way, you don't have to have a seminary degree to preach the gospel. I don't read that anywhere. Did you?
No.
Okay, good. But how has that grown your faith personally or Bernice's?
Yeah, well, when we agreed to go on the road, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then the next feeling was, what did I just agree to? Because I'm a quiet, technically, I guess a shy person. And so now I've got to go out there and actually share the gospel, which is hard. It's amazing. That's the greatest love story ever, and we want everybody to hear it. But for me, in any way, I don't know about anybody else, but for me, it's uncomfortable sometimes to share that, even though it's like, why is that? And Satan on my left shoulder saying, "Hey, don't do that. You'll embarrass yourself." I don't know what it is, but so this was huge. This was a huge stepping out of my comfort zone, but it's amazing how once you get there, like my wife stumbled across this saying that God does not call the equipped; He equips the called. Because if you don't, people go, well, I'm not good enough to go to church yet. Oh, perfect. You're the perfect candidate to go to church then. We aren't supposed to show up clean and everything else ready to go. We need to go there. It's a hospital. We are there to get healed.
Amen.
And so, Yeah, it grew me tremendously because I went from not sharing the gospel very much to on a daily basis. That's my job for the summer, for those 3 months. And Bernice, same way. There was a couple times she was just sitting. My wife, if anybody's ever met my wife, there's not a stranger in the house. She's the last person to leave an event. I mean, she talks to everybody. I can't go to Walmart or this grocery store or wherever else and not have her run to 20 people she knows. But she was sitting on the steps of our RV one time, not crying, but at the verge of tears because she didn't want to go talk to anybody. She was petrified of if she was good enough to go talk to, because some of the people we meet that host these events, they're pretty well-to-do. They appear to have it all together, and that she just thought, well, I'm not good enough to be here. Well, she says, God grabbed me by the ear basically and says, you stand up and you get out there and you go talk to these people. Yeah.
It's funny. I think we all feel that way, that we're not qualified enough. And I love your quote that you guys came up with. But yeah, he doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called and puts us in a place. But I don't care how much money you make, how successful you are, we all feel inadequate. Mm-hmm. It's just our human nature. Was there a point where, so two remaining questions, was there a point where you felt God's calling on your life, but you weren't willing to submit? That would be question one, like you knew that. And then the last question would be, what's next for Dean?
The second question scares me. The first one, can you repeat the first question?
Yeah, the first question was basically, was there a time where you knew that God was calling you to something? Maybe you didn't know what it was, or you kind of knew what it was, but it's too far outside your comfort zone. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Maybe like a Jonah moment.
Yeah. Well, I think I was the reason, my wife was wanting us to do that ministry for quite a few years, and we would volunteer. And I was just a boat driver when we'd volunteer in the past. But when we actually, I think part of me turning down whenever she said, well, we should go ask Nate, we can ask to be on, the team. My fear kept me from that. Of course, I can use the fear of, well, I got a house payment, I got a job, I got this, which I still have a job, but I just work differently now than I did back then. Because that was easy to say that. And then I could feel, I didn't feel guilty for saying no to ministry. Once we sold the house, it was like, okay, Dean, got rid of that obstacle.
Excuse.
Yeah, excuse. And so I wasn't that I reluctantly said, oh, okay, God, here we go. I felt God had gave me peace, give me the peace to move on towards that, but it did scare me.
So let me just say this real quick. Maybe a question for the audience, for me, for you, is what are you holding on to that's allowing you to have an excuse or justification not to move forward that you actually need to let go of? So I'm just going to let that sit, and you can continue on to your next question.
Yeah.
What's next for Dean?
Next for Dean. Well, I've primarily the last 20 years or so been in software, and I'm too active of a person. I'm always constantly have to have my hands on something. And I love architecture. So I'm in the process of building not tiny homes, but I guess small homes, 700 to 900 square foot houses, because this market is ridiculous. A young family cannot purchase a house without going into debt for the next 700 years. And so I want to create a cool small house with awesome design and affordable. We'll see how affordable it goes with the prices of wood and everything else, but I want to make it so it's affordable for a young family to actually purchase a house of their own. And so I'm studying to get my contractor's license. I used to build houses years ago. I worked for quite a few years building houses and designed houses. I took architect classes when I was younger in high school, and I know enough to get myself in trouble. So I've designed a few houses and we've built them. And so, yeah, that's where I'm going now. I just, that scratches an itch. I'm a person that has a million ideas and I never do any of them because I don't know. That's a whole different topic for another 10 podcasts. But yeah, so that's where I'm going now. We're going to see if we can't bless some people with some affordable housing, but not be the typical affordable housing you keep hearing about. This is going to be cool affordable housing.
Yeah, I really like that idea because you're right. Housing is not affordable for most people right now, especially if you're a first-time home buyer coming up with, money down and a $3,000 mortgage. So if you could learn how to do that, I think it'd be phenomenal. So I'll be praying for you. I'm going to be watching you. I'm interested in how you do this. And I know that God will he'll create the way for you for sure. So Dean, as we wrap up, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's a good way for them to contact you?
I guess you could just message me. I guess everybody's on Facebook, it seems like. So you can message me on Facebook as under Dean Breitbach. I'm sure it might be in your show notes how to spell my name.
Totally. Yeah, it will be. So we'll put that link in the show notes so we know how to get hold of Dean. And like if they just message you through there, you could get back to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, dude, this has been a lot of fun. I love hearing your water skiing stories. The pictures I see on your Facebook is an early morning, like the sun's just coming up. I'm like, oh yeah, I used to live that life. Like that's really cool. I like the idea of it. I don't water ski. Well, I take it back. I water ski about once a year. We go to Central Oregon to go water skiing with my cousin, me and my daughters, and a few other people. And it's a blast, but I'm always sore, like really sore. Like, yeah, I'm not 20 anymore.
Yeah, but it's a good sore.
It's a good sore. So anyway, we'll have you back again maybe in the next 9 months to a year, and we'll want to hear how these small homes are coming along and how God's worked through that. So
awesome.
Thanks again for being a part of our podcast today. If you've liked this or any other podcast, please like and share this with somebody you know or you love. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week on our show. Until then, have a great week.